Now, one thing that I want to do is that if I run this out, I'm getting all the services that are in a stop state. Yes, great. But what if I want to save it somewhere? Let's say in a text file or in an Excel file, something like that. What I can do is that now I can put one more pipe here. So I am giving a first pipe telling get service. I'm getting the entire output, passing it to a different command called where object using a pipe, which is taking the input and taking, let's say, passing it, let's say, as an output. I'm getting a processed output out here. After this, I will put one more pipe here and I'll say out hyphen file. I can do a out hyphen file here. I'm saying taking the output, put it into a file called something like, let's see, I can give a file path here. I can give a particular path as such. And I want to store this file into a directory out here into my machine. Let's say something like I have a folder called 7am XML. I just have one file called settings or something. What I do is inside this path, I want to, let's say, add a file called stop.txt. This is the file that I want to add, and I want to store all the output here. And if I run this out, it did not give you an output this time. It did not really give you an output this time. Reason being, you're changing the command, you're changing the nature of the command using a pipe. But if you go here, you see you had one more file here called stop.txt. You're able to store all these values here in the form of a text file. If I do a stop.csv, I would have got an Excel file out here. I would have got, let's say, a CSV file out here, comma separated value file. So you can do a text, you can do a CSV out here using function. Or if you want to, let's say, get only the running services, you can also do that. But here I'll just say it is running, and I would say this is running.txt. And if you run this out here, and if I go into this particular folder, get one more file called what? Running.txt. If I look into that, all the services that are running. So you can run PowerShell on a periodic basis, get all your services, make a report out of it, send it to someone. You can do end to end using this particular PowerShell script out here again. If you look at it, I haven't done anything, let's say, really out of the box. I've just taken one simple line. I've used a pipeline and I have, let's say, given multiple commands out here to this particular PowerShell script. Yes, any questions for you? Anyone, any questions for you? So I started with get service to understand how do I get the services out here. It is giving me all the services. Then I introduce something called as a pipeline. I'm saying, okay, fine, you know what, you can give multiple conditions inside this particular pipeline. And the condition that I've given is that all the services that are running and all the services that are starting with, let's say, something called A. So if I just run this out till here, I get all the services that are running, all the services that are starting with A. Finally, I have given one more pipe again, telling, okay, fine, don't output this out in this particular console, but output it to a file. And I'm, let's say, creating multiple files for my own. So I'm going at creating multiple files as such. And I am, let's say, giving a file called running.txt and I'm getting something out here. So this is the advantage of using multiple pipes. You can use multiple pipes out here in this particular command line. You can do a lot of things out here and you can, get all this content out here. Yes, any questions for you? Anyone, any questions for you?
Sir, can you fit based on function, sir?
Sorry, can you fit a by?
Based on function, like audio, video.
Audio, video based functions. See again, look at the output that you're getting. Very importantly, just look at the output that you're getting and using one of these parameters you can filter it out, status, name or display name. So if you say audio, I'll just have to say, okay, fine, I have to see my let's say a description telling what exactly is the audio function. For example, let's talk about Bluetooth. I can say display name is like Bluetooth. I can get all the services that are like Bluetooth out here. So for example, if you want audio services, let's take all these things out. Let's put the condition once again, and let's say it's like audio. And if I run this out, now there is something not audio out here because I'll have to check for one particular service out here, something called sound or something like that. The name of the service is something different, so that's the reason I'm not getting anything out as such. Let's check out what is audio actually called, or I can put something that I know, something like Bluetooth. Let's say I want to put something like a Bluetooth service out here. I'm not getting something. Let's see.
We didn't give asterisk symbol after Bluetooth.
After that, yes. So what I can do is that I can say instead of like, I can give one more operator called contains. Say this word contains Bluetooth out here. Yes. Let's try this one with a hash. Like it's easier to do. Let's say something like hash. So Bluetooth, getting something like that, or audio, something the same. So what my point here is that we need to filter the services with either the status or either the display name or either the name of here. You cannot say I need audio. You cannot do that way. You will have to let's say take one specific property and then filter it out on top of it, so that you can get all the services that are let's say running, all the stopped and all that stuff. No more questions.
Why contains is not working? Even contains should work, right?
I'm sorry.
No, instead of like parameter, contains also should work, right? For Bluetooth.
Contains should also work. Contains should also work. But let's see
Yeah, but
this.
it's not working.
Yes, it is not working for some reason. Let's see. What does contains really talking about? Let's see what does PowerShell contains really used out here. Look at the contains operator. Let's check this out. I want to just look at the documentation of it. It's telling how contains operator, let's say, so yes. So the contains doesn't do a substring comparison and must match something like this, yes. So instead of, I mean, when you do a contains out here, it won't really do a substring of something. It tries to, let's say, get your entire string as such. Better way to do it is a match operator. So contains, as they say, doesn't do a substring. It just tells you what is a collection. It doesn't do a substring. Reason being, you're not able to get anything out here using contains. So if I do a contains out here, it doesn't do, let's say, the substring out here. The reason being, like or match can help you, let's say, achieve this particular, let's say, condition that you are, let's say, looking for. Contains will not, let's say, consider all these things out. Contains doesn't consider the substrings out here. It will only, let's say, look for a main string. So it more acts like an equal to as such. Reason being, you're not able to, let's say, get anything from a contains operator as such. Again, to read about this documentation, go to operators in PowerShell. Look at the Microsoft documentation as such, which will tell you a good, let's say, logical operators and all that stuff. It will tell you a good understanding. It will give you a good understanding, let's say, about the different operators that are used, like equal to, contains, and all that stuff. And this will give you a good idea on what can you do with contains and all these things out here.
Okay, thanks, Kiran. Okay, when we use contains operator,
Contains is to match something. If you want to, let's say, just look at that particular string as such. For example, I'll give you an example out here. Let's see. Where is the contain operator? Let's see this one. About PowerShell contains. Let's check this out.
Can you try this with the match once?
The match, we can try that out too. Contains is only, let's say, common when you want to, let's say, look at only one particular string, not a substring of. Match works more like contains works more like equal to.
Hi, Kiran. Can we use if or if else condition in here?
Yes, you can use if or else condition here as well. But to use that if or else, you will need to do a for each firstly. Because now, when you're looking at this particular array, or when you look at this particular output, it's more like an array of things. So you'll have to process each and every object of that particular array and then use an if condition out here. So you can do an if out here or an else out here, but better way to do this is a single line, let's say, pipe operator using a where object as such. Yes, any questions here? So we're looking at like, not like, contains, not contains, match, not match, all these things are. Mostly used operators are something like or equal to, not equal to. These are most used operators out here. Again, match, if you look at, it's morely working like, let's say, a like operator only, but it can, let's say, filter things out without a wildcard. You don't have to really give a wildcard, let's say, when you're using match. Contains needs or contains doesn't look at a specific substring. If you only have a Bluetooth, let's say, condition called Bluetooth out here, you only can get that particular service as such. Yes, any questions still here? Anyone, any questions
What
still
is
here?
the use for their object?
What is the use for where object? What if you don't give where object? Let's come with that. What if you don't give where object out here? So where object here is more acting like a for each loop. You are processing each and every object inside that particular array. If I have to come with an actual command, if I don't use a where object, I have to do something like this. I'll say services. I can say equal to get service. I can now say for each service, dollar service in dollar services, I can then have to figure out something called if service dot name. If you want all these conditions, let's run this loop once so that you'll get all these filters completely. Just run this blank loop, and after running this, you can say I'm now doing a for each, and inside which I'll do if dollar service dot name is equal to something, or dollar service dot status is equal to running. Then I can say in the if loop, I can say the name of the service. I'll say right host. Guys, please go on mute if you're not talking. I'll say right host, name of the service. Guys, please stay on mute. You're disturbing the class if you're not. So the name of the service, I can say the name of the service is dollar service dot name in quotes. This is what I have to do if I don't use a where object. If I don't use a where object out here. So where object is an easier way to go ahead and say for each out here. Instead of doing a for each, I'm directly giving all my conditions here. If I do a for each, my script kind of gets expanded out here. So I'm taking the service, I'm taking for each. Inside the for each, I'm telling okay, fine. If the status of the service is equal to running and etc., then I'm getting something. I can apply the same conditions out here. I can say if and under if I can give multiple conditions. I'll say and dollar dot name is like a star. I can do multiple things out here. Again, the syntax kind of gets different out here. So I can do multiple conditions. I can run multiple things out here. I can get the services out here, but the where object is an easier way to filter things out. The where object out here is an easier way to filter things out, because now again I'll have to pass some syntaxes out here in order to, let's say, filter things out. A better way to do it is using a where object here, which will replace all this condition. So the same condition I'm writing in one line, the same condition I'm writing in multiple lines. So the
So
better way
Kiran,
is to
why
go
are we using service dot name it last?
here.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I only wanted to get the name of the service out here instead of, let's say, writing everything, because I'm now using an if loop here. So that's the reason I'm getting the name of the service. That's it. I'm telling what is the service which is running for you. That's it.
Okay.
Because if I don't use this, right? So let's say I don't use this, I just go with a single condition. And if I just run this out without anything, it won't really give me anything. Even though if your condition is getting satisfied, after going to the if loop, it's not understanding what to really do. Instead of which, if I say $service dot name, I'll end up printing out all the services that are starting with that particular or which are running on these things. So I'm just using that particular condition to print out things. That's it. The reason being I'm using a service dot name as such.
Okay, okay.
Okay, always case sensitive. Okay, there is one question from Maharshi telling that if match, is it case sensitive or is it case insensitive? Good question. If you do a match, it is case insensitive. But if you do C and then if you, let's say, do something like this, let's see this. Let's take out match. There's something called C and match, right? So it's a regular expression and it matches the case. If you do a C, it's meaning it is case sensitive. Meaning if I'm doing a match, it will also look for case sensitiveness. If I'm passing all the lowercase, it will only give me output if that particular service is in a lowercase out here. But if you just do a match, it is case insensitive. Just like the same way you have equal to and all these things, you have C equal to and all that stuff. It is case sensitive operators. So you can also do case sensitive operators as such.
So what is the difference between match and I match?
I match, I'm not too sure about that. Let's see, I match. The current operator in case sensitive returns true when at least one operator occurs. I'm not too sure about that. I'll have to check this out and let you know. I'll check this out and let you know in the next session.
Okay, okay, okay.
It's insensitive. It's insensitive. Also. More like equal to only, but yes, I will check this out and let you know. Yes, any more questions? Any more questions? So what are we doing so far is this. So today our main focus was on something called where object, and we were looking at how to use a where object operator as such. Now what I want you all to do is read about operators in PowerShell. Now there are a lot of operators. It can be very confusing at times because we don't use all the operators at all times. So there is something called contains and all that stuff. So there are a lot of operators as such. Let's say operators in PowerShell. And if you look at this, there is something called comparison operators. There is equal to and all that stuff. So let's go in there. So there is these examples that I actually wanted to say, this containment and all that stuff. So please look into this particular documentation about operators and about comparison operators, wherein you will have multiple examples out here. Again, common features and etc. It will give you equal to operators, how to use that particular operator. And if you scroll down, you also have examples for contains, not contains, and etc. Matching, wildcard, not like, not matches, and etc. All these things out here. Match, not match, not like, contains, not doesn't contain, and all that stuff. Substring of connection. So you have something replace and all these things out here. Contains, not contains, in, not in, and all these things out here. So if you look at this one, please make sure to, let's say, check these examples out. Try these examples. Try to apply these examples for our condition for get service. So we use one particular example called get service where we are getting all the list of array. After that, use that particular where object. If you don't want to go that route, see how you can use a for each on top of it. If you're doing a for each, see what you can do with a for each and see how it, let's say, get implies to a for each as such. So where object is something that we covered. Then we covered something called pipeline conditions, as in how to use a pipeline, how to send an output of one particular input to, let's say, something like that. And then we were using something called out file, wherein taking the input or taking all the output that is coming from a particular command, sending it out to a text file. Also tell me, can you send it out to, let's say, a CSV file? See how you can do that. How can you put an output into a CSV file and all these things. And till now, whatever commands that we used, the get, the write rows, the read rows, and all these things, we are going to now apply all these commands uh, on Azure PowerShell. Until now, we were only doing Windows PowerShell till now. We're not doing, let's say, Azure PowerShell. Now I want to, let's say, apply all these things to something known as an Azure PowerShell to see how I can use this particular commands up here. So till now, 3-4 classes, we were only doing Windows PowerShell. But what our goal is to go into Azure PowerShell, and for Azure PowerShell, we need to, let's say, look into something known as a concept of modules. There's something called concept of modules. And if you all get time, what I want you all to read about today is called as parameterization in PowerShell. Let's look at what is parameterization in PowerShell. I'll start with this particular concept and then we'll move into, let's say, Azure PowerShell. We'll also see what is a use case scenario of parameterization as such. Yes, anyone, any questions till here? Anyone, any questions till here? Anyone, any questions till here that I can take?
Hi
Anyone,
Kiran.
anything? Go ahead, please.
In real time, we can use all the services in any time.
In real time, we can use all the services. Can you please elaborate your question? I didn't get it.
Uh, in real time, we can use all the services.
No, still did not get your question. When you say services, what exactly do you mean by that?
In real time, we can use all the services anytime.
Still did not get your question out. So, what do you mean by services? Do you mean these services, or what exactly do you mean by this?
Uh, uh, those.
No, these services are just as an example. In a real-time scenario, you will be getting something
Okay.
like, can you go ahead and create 10 resource groups using a PowerShell script? And can you create 10
Okay.
containers in storage account using a PowerShell script? Services out here is an
Okay.
example. It's a Windows, let's say,
Okay.
object out here. Yes, you can also use that depending upon the condition that you have.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, any more questions, guys, before I can close? Anyone, any more questions before I can close? So, what I want you to do is that please do a revision of all these topics firstly. Write host, read host. Then you see about for loop and for each loops.
Kiran, can you send any link for parameterization?
Sure, I
Document
mean,
link.
I'll just try to check if there's documentation out here. About parameters and parameter values and how do you, let's say, get a parameter, how do you declare a parameter and all these things out. You can use this one for parameters. I forgot to copy the link. Or if you just do a Google, you also get, let's say, multiple examples. Understanding Windows PowerShell parameter function. What do you mean by a parameter function? This is precisely what I want you all to read. Just close this out. So that's the documentation, Microsoft documentation, but this is precisely what I want you all to read. So just take this out and please send it out to the class online. Is Terraform an alternative to PowerShell? No, Terraform is an alternative to ARM, not PowerShell. You're already unmuted. There's someone who's asking me to unmute. You're already unmuted. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Yes.
Hi
Anyone, any
Kiran,
questions?
I have one question.
Go ahead, please.
Hi Kiran, what is the
Go ahead.
different PowerShell?
Your voice is breaking. Can you please come again? What is the difference in PowerShell and
PowerShell and Azure CLI.
PowerShell and Azure CLI? Okay, great. So PowerShell is, let's say, the PowerShell that you're using. This is only compatible to a Windows operating system. This can only run on top of a Windows operating system. But people from Mac operating systems or Linux operating systems, if they want to use PowerShell, they can use something called as a CLI, the Linux flavor of PowerShell out here. You can also use Azure CLI or PowerShell CLI on your machine as well, on your Windows machines as well. So it's an alternative, a better alternative for PowerShell on multiple operating systems. PowerShell that you use out here is Windows specific. CLI, command line interface, is independent of the operating system that you're using. So it can run on Linux, it can run on Mac, it can run on Windows out here. So that's the major difference between a PowerShell and a CLI out there.
Hi, Kiran. In Azure, we use PowerShell or CLI.
We can use both. You can either use a PowerShell or CLI. Anything works.
Okay, in CLI, we have to give command a little bit different, right? Instead of object, after pipeline, we have to give include like I,
Yes,
fetching.
correct. Correct. CLI syntax is slightly a little bit different. CLI is easier when you're coming from a bash background, meaning it is similar to PowerShell, but it's, it kind of falls between PowerShell and something called shell scripting, which you use in Linux a lot. So yes, CLI is slightly different, but yes, for especially someone who is working on Azure Devops platforms, you can either use PowerShell or CLI. Anything is okay, not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Where we use PowerShell, any real-time examples? Yes, I'll definitely give you real-time examples. Once we go inside Azure PowerShell, we will take real-time examples out there. As of now, this is only the theory of it. This is only, let's say, the Windows PowerShell part of it. I haven't touched the Azure PowerShell, which we will do tomorrow. From tomorrow again, from tomorrow sessions, we will do Azure PowerShell. We'll understand how to create resource groups, how to interact with the Azure portal, how to create resource groups, how to delete resource groups, how to create storage accounts, how to, let's say, create multiple storage accounts using for each loops and all these things. So for which I want you all to do a revision of these looping concepts and also the pipeline and all these things. Just revise on top of it. But very importantly, please look at for and for each loops, which we will be using heavily for if else loops, which we will be using heavily, let's say, in coming sessions of them. All right. Okay, guys. Thank you and have a good day ahead. Thank you.